Greetings. Welcome to another edition of Alusine Multicultural Family Consulting. It's a pleasure to talk to audiences with goals of informing, of persuading, and sometimes entertaining. So I thank you for your time and for giving me the opportunity to be part of the resources of information from a communicative point of view. In today's session, I want to talk about a topic which is important, and that topic is the barriers to effective communication. Sometimes the intended message is not the perceived message. Sometimes there is misunderstanding. So today I'm going to talk about how those barriers affect sometimes our best of intentions. The first of the barriers to effective communication is noise. And there are two types of noise. There is internal noise and there is external noise. Internal noise, someone is talking to me and I'm thinking about dinner. That's internal noise. External noise, I'm having a conversation and there is an obstruction of interference. So that's one barrier to effective communication. Another is stereotyping. Stereotyping is when we make assumptions that may not necessarily be true. In many cases, when we communicate, sometimes people deal with stereotypes or assumptions, those pictures in our heads. There are many stereotypes. There is stereotypes on age, gender, ethnicity, race, religion. Sometimes we make those assumptions, and when we make those assumptions, it can have a detrimental effect on the individual because we do not communicate on how we send and receive meaning in a constructive way. When we stereotype, when we put people into categories. So like noise, stereotyping is a barrier that affects communication. A third barrier that affects communication is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is cultural. It's the belief everyone has that their culture is the best in the world. It's good to love your culture, it's good to have national pride, but sometimes when we put that up front as the only reason why we communicate, that's going to be a barrier because we don't focus on the uniqueness of the communication when we engage in ethnocentrism. Another barrier to communication is attribution error. Attribution error has to do with how we use language. And sometimes attribution error is the basis of comedy. You mean one thing and the other person means another. That can be a barrier. So how do we confront these barriers? Well, we should avoid overgeneralization. We should distinguish between what's a fact and what's an inference. We should observe the non-verbals. Sometimes there is more in meaning when the focus is on non-verbals. Our eye contact, our facial expression, our gestures. All of those are ways we can cope with barriers to communication. Whenever we communicate, it's good to affirm the uniqueness of one another. But when we use noise, stereotyping, ethnocentrism, overgeneralizations, all those anti-parties affect communication. So we should decide whether or not when we communicate we consider how those factors affect the effectiveness of communication. Thank you for listening, and it's always a pleasure.